Hello everyone. Well, I put a little video out earlier on all sorts of social media talking about this video, which is kind of a welcome to the Knitalong that starts next Sunday. And the reason that I'm doing this is because a lot of people said what will I need, because I haven't received the poster charts. We are up to date, by the way. If you've ordered one, I've got no charts to send out. I've got loads of charts to send out, but I've got none pending. They've all gone. I've done my job. I've been a good boy. Right, so people are waiting on charts, and they've said to me, I don't know the instructions yet. What will I need for the Knitalong? So part of the reason for this video is that I can tell you what you're going to need. But first of all, earlier on, if you didn't manage to see the video earlier, I went through the hashtags that we'll be using. Smith Knits. The Facebook group is Colourwork Knitting. There's a Ravelry group called Smith Knits. There's a Ravelry event called Flower Square KAL. And when we actually do it, the how-to videos, all the videos are going to be shared on both Patreon and YouTube. So I just wanted to talk about the history of this KAL. What happened was, last year, I only managed to finish one thing. The only thing that I finished last year, all my knitting, was the mugs square. And the reason for that was that I spent the majority of the year, at the beginning of the year, I wasn't knitting. So there was a couple of months when I wasn't knitting. And then we went away on holiday and I started knitting this, which is called the Remembrance blanket, and I still haven't finished it, and I put about 8 months worth of knitting into that, so it's getting quite big. I mean, it's going to be a full-size blanket. It's quite a huge thing. So I was knitting that, and Mrs. Smith was saying to me, why are you knitting such a big thing? Nobody's going to want to knit that, and no one's going to knit it with you. So why don't you knit something small? Now her suggestion was, she was thinking about a triangle about that big that you could use as a headscarf. And I said, well, if I'm going to knit something small, I'm going to knit something that I can use. And what I wanted was like a bandana. So I came up with the idea of knitting squares so that I could use them as a scarf or a bandana. I've knitted two now. I've knitted the mug and I've knitted the single flower. And for the Knitalong, you can knit any of those. I'm going to be knitting the multi-flower. So when I started knitting these two, I used yarn from a stash, and I've got some here. So I just picked a load of yarn out of my stash like I do. If you've not seen my colour episode, I've actually got 2 episodes about colour choices for knitters. You can go and find those on YouTube or Patreon. It might be worth looking at those episodes first if you're going to be choosing colours yourself. I talk about where I get my colour inspiration from. So when I was thinking about doing a Knitalong, I was looking at these yarns from We County Yarns, and I saw their Instagram page, and there were these mini ball. They are called gradient packs, mini ball gradient packs, and there's 10 different colours in each pack. And I spoke to the lovely lady at We County Yarns, and I said I'd like to put together some colours so that people could just order the colours that I'm going to use if they want to. But there's lots of different gradient packs at We County Yarns, so you can actually pick your own packs, or you could just pick your own individual colours, I assume. So these 2 packs, I think they're called foreground and background of Remembrance. So they're called Remembrance Foreground and Remembrance Background. So you can just buy those from We County Yarns and knit along with those. You might want to add in a couple of, I might well add in a couple of, because I'm like that. But you don't need to buy these yarns. So these are 4-ply yarns. You don't need to. You can knit it from your stash. If you've got a stash, you can knit it from your stash, and it doesn't have to be 4-ply. You could knit, DK or whatever you want. So each of these packs has 10 of these mini balls. Where are we? There. And in those, this one's called Oyster. They're 4-ply, 10 grams, 45 to 56 meters. The only thing that I would say, because this is 100% wool, Scottish wool, it's fibrous, and because we're cutting a steek, we need to knit with something that's fibrous. Generally, you wouldn't want to be using something like cotton. You wouldn't want to be using something that's shiny, because when you cut the steek, you want the fibres to all mesh together. So an itchy yarn, if that's the right word, is what you're looking for. Not that it's particularly itchy, but a fibrous yarn is what you're looking for. So a wool is probably the best, and Shetland wool or Scottish wool is pretty good, but you could use anything out of your stash. So right, you don't have to use, so I've got 20 colours here, 10 in each pack. You don't have to use 20 colours. You could use just 2 colours. So you could just use a foreground and a background colour for that if you wanted to, out of your stash. I've chosen to knit because what I wanted, because I want drape, I want these to be quite sort of floaty, and I don't want these to be too stiff. So I've knitted these with probably on the larger end of needles. So it's a 3.5mm that I've used. I've used these. So I stipulate in the pattern 16-inch, which is 40 centimetre, US 4, which is 3.5 millimetre chow goose. So that's what I stipulate on the pattern. Obviously you can use whatever you've got, and you could do magic loop if you wanted to. And the other thing is, what you might want to do, and when I cast on, I usually start on a slightly smaller needle to get a nice tight cast on. I find that the edge doesn't curl so much if I do that, so you might like to do that. And then the other things that you'll need are a crochet hook, and I've got a 1.5 little crochet hook there that I use quite a lot, and a darning needle. Going back to what I was saying about drape, that it swings and roundabouts. So if you want something that's drapey and you're knitting the way that I do, I get a lot of people say, I can see the background colour coming through when I knit. Let's find a bit there. So for instance, let me find a bit there. So you might be able to see the pink coming through there just slightly. Now, that's not something that bothers me. That's something that I quite like. And I'd always choose the drape over something that's much stiffer. But if it's something that bothers you, then you need to probably drop down a needle half a size, 0.5mm. So potentially you might be knitting that with 3mm, so that the background colour doesn't show through. So if it bothers you, that's what you need to do. Or you could go thicker yarn, keep the same size needle and go thicker yarn. But either way, it doesn't bother me. I like it. It's something that I enjoy. Yeah. And also, I don't know, I always say there's no rules in knitting, and if there are, they're to be broken. So if you're not meant to see the background colour coming through, I'm gonna let the background colour show through because I want it to, just because I like breaking the rules. So there you are. Not that there are any rules. Now you can knit along any of my patterns, because apart from my vest pattern, which is called the Swallows vest pattern, apart from my vest pattern, all of my other patterns are flat patterns. They're all knitted in around and they're all steeped. So you can knit along any pattern you like. What I would say is that I've decided that after I do the knit along for the multiflowers, sorry, that's here, I'm going to be doing, my next knit along is going to be doing rabbits, because I haven't knitted that one yet. And this year I do plan to do, because I've got these two, and I'm going to knit another one for the knit along, so I'll then have three. So I was thinking about doing a cushion cover, front and back for a cushion cover, but now I'm up to three. I'm thinking about potentially putting 4 together or 6 together or 9 together to make a great big square. For the last 3 months I've given my patrons a new pattern every month. So if you're not a patron, go to our Patreon. The link will be down there, and for £2 a month you can get a new pattern every month for free download. So it's my first time doing a knit along, and I've never done a knit along with anybody else. I've never done anybody else's knit along because I only knit my stuff. So it's difficult for me because I don't really know what your expectations are. But if there's something that you would like to see, let me know. It's really difficult for us to, I say used to, it was only a couple of months ago, it was only sort of October, November of last year when we were replying to every single question and every single comment, and then just things got on top of us, and we weren't capable of doing it anymore because we were across so many different platforms, and there were so we've had to kind of and it's not that we don't love you all, it's just purely the amount of comments that we were getting. So but do be aware that we do look at them, and if there is something and it's coming up again and again and again, then Jo, Mrs. Smith, she will make sure that I address it. So please comment and let us know what you want and what you expect from us for this knit along.